Hi everyone, my name is Atharva, and in this demo, I'll walk you through my real-time AI uh, chatbot application, which is basically built on AWS. I'll show you how the system works end to end and explain the role of each AWS service involved. Talking about the system overview, the system consists of three main parts: the front end chat UI, which basically is hosted on S3 bucket. This is a static website which I have built from HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So if I just open it up, yep. So that's the static website that we are having. And then we also have a Node.js WebSocket server running on EC2 instance, basically to communicate between our backend and front end in the live environment. We are using WebSocket servers, and the backend basically is handled by AWS Lambda, which is basically triggered via an API gateway, which calls the Gemini API. So this is basically a very generalized chatbot application. So you can ask anything. It's not, focused on a certain area of aspect, but we can ask any generalized question for this. So talking about the front end basically is, as I said again, it's hosted on AWS S3 bucket. So in the objects we have index.html file, CSS, and the JavaScript file. So these are basically used for our static front end. And the reason I use S3 bucket is basically it provides a scalable and reliable storage and even for static website hosting, which makes it easier to serve HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files to the users. So when the user visits the site, they basically will see the chat UI and can send the message in the real time. So if I just ask, hi there, I'll get a message. So tell me what's the capital of United States. So we can ask a factual question, or who won the Super Bowl 24, Kansas City. So this is how we are getting every answer in the real time using WebSocket servers. Talking about the WebSocket server, so whenever a user sends a message, it's basically sent via WebSocket to a Node.js server, which is running on my EC2 instance. So the EC2 instance basically provides a virtual server in the cloud, giving us the full control over our real-time backend. And the web server receives the message, broadcasts it all to all the connected clients, and forward the user message to the AI backend, which is basically nothing but our AWS Lambda function. So for the AI response, the WebSocket server sends a post request to the endpoint provided by the API gateway. So if you look at this, um, my API gateway is basically triggering my Lambda function. So whenever my EC2 instance sends a post request to my API gateway, it basically triggers my Lambda function. My Lambda function will then, sends the message to through the Gemini API. Then the Gemini API basically generates the response, and we get it back to through the WebSocket servers to the front end. So the reason I'm using the Lambda function basically is because it's a serverless compute that can run our Python code and get each response. It's basically very scalable, and so in the future use case, if we have thousands and hundred thousands concurrent requests coming into the picture, it can automatically scale it up, so we don't have to worry about it as well. So that's the whole workflow. Basically, just to recap it, the user sends a message from the S3 hosted front end. The message goes to the EC2 WebSocket server, and the server forwards it to the Lambda function via API gateway. The Lambda function then calls the Gemini API, gets a response, and sends it back. And the WebSocket server again broadcasts the AI response to all the clients, and the user can see the reply in the real time. So currently, we can ask any other question like, what is the molecular formula of H2O, water? Sorry. So we get this as well. So, and in terms of the security and best practices, sensitive information like the API keys are also stored in environment variables in our Lambda function. So it's also not exposed into the code directly. And I am also following the S3 bucket policies and cost settings, um, to configure the secure access, and the Lambda is basically using an IAM role for permission of recording all the logs, all the issues that it's happening on at the Lambda function using CloudFront. And basically Lambda for serverless AI processing as well, we are using a secure HTTP gateway using the API gateway protocol. So that's it. That's the end-to-end workflow of my real-time AI chat application. Let me know if you have any questions or feedback. I would love to hear that. Thank you.